We need to come to a place just like Jesus and say to God and admit out loud to ourselves, we need to say, God, not my will be done, but yours. Father, I don't want to do just those things that bring pleasure to me. I don't want to live my life in just a way that makes me happy. God, not my will, but yours. There has to be a point in our life where we confess to God that our ways are not His ways and that we don't want to live according to our flesh any longer. You know, the Bible tells us to walk in the Spirit, and by doing that, we won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. For years, I thought that meant that I'm supposed to walk in the Holy Spirit, and that if I walk in the Holy Spirit, I won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. While there may be some truth to that statement that if we could do that, the end result is that we probably wouldn't fulfill the lust of the flesh. That's not the intent of what God was trying to say. How many of you know that you have a body, soul, and a spirit? You have a body, soul, and a spirit. Your body is this physical thing that we see and that we feed every day and groom every morning in the mirror, right? And our soul is our mind, our will, and our emotions. And those have to do with the way we interact with our environment. And then our spirit is the eternal side of us. That is the part of us that is most like God. And what Paul was trying to say is that if we can learn how to walk in that part of us that is most like God and make that the dominant part of our triune makeup, make our spirit man the dominant part of who we are, he says, then we won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. You know why? Because our spirit man will say to the flesh, you're not going to do that. I'm convinced that's what Jesus did in the garden. When He was praying, if there's some way for this cup to pass from me, God, let it pass. There was a point where His spirit man said, no, that's not the plan of God. His flesh was crying out if there's some other way. But His spirit man, the part of Him that was the most dominant, because that's what He had been feeding the most, His spirit. We see Jesus always going apart to pray and talking about God and spending most of His time doing the things of God. But He didn't give in to His flesh. When His flesh tried to rise up, His spirit man said, nevertheless, not my will be done, but yours. Church, we've got to learn how to walk in that part of us that is most like God. We've got to learn to not give in to these carnal pleasures that are around us and not give in to things, this driving force that causes us to dishonor ourselves, to dishonor our families, to dishonor our church, to dishonor our God. We can't afford to do it. And there may be somebody sitting here right now that has carnal struggles. You have fleshly struggles, things that you're fighting against. Maybe you've prayed out and called out and cried out to God so many times, God, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to live this way anymore. I promise I won't do this anymore. And we find ourselves going right back to it again.